HSDS, de tv-specialist in Su. Het grootste aanbod van televisies vindt u alleen bij HSDS. 3D, Full HD, 4K, Ultra HD, SUHD, OLED en QLED televisies. Wilt u meer? Oké. Flat, curved, groot, klein, digitaal en smart. HSDS is uw tv-specialist. Op zoek naar uw favoriete merk? Geen probleem. Samsung, Sony, LG, Philips, Toshiba, Panasonic, TCL, Haier, Sharp, iQ en nog veel meer. We bieden de nieuwste modellen voor altijd lage prijzen. We hebben alles voor uw tv. Voltageprotectors, digitale boxes en overige accessoires. HSDS, uw tv-specialist in Su.
Welkom, je kijkt naar een nieuwe aflevering van She Rises. En in deze aflevering praat ik met Sheetal Sujan. Sheetal is in India geboren. Ze is daar opgegroeid en woont nu al een tijdje in Suriname. Ze voelt zich hier ook echt thuis en haar kinderen zijn ook hier geboren en groeien hier op. Maar het grappige is dus dat wij Sheetal waarschijnlijk als een buitenlander zien. Maar ze voelt zich ook echt thuis in Suriname en ik vond het heel bijzonder om ook door haar geïnspireerd te worden vandaag. Ze gaat met ons delen hoe ze is begonnen met haar carrière. Het ging nogal moeilijk, want zoals veel vrouwen dat misschien hebben, had ze hele andere verwachtingen van huis uit. En de verwachtingen van huis uit waren niet zo in lijn met haar wensen. Maar het is haar allemaal gelukt door haar vastberadenheid. En ik denk dat dat wel heel inspirerend kan zijn vandaag. We gaan het interview in het Engels doen, omdat ze dus dat beter spreekt en begrijpt. Ze verstaat natuurlijk ook Nederlands, want ze woont hier, maar het interview is voor haar wel prettiger in het Engels. Dus we zullen dit interview ook in het Engels doen vandaag. Ik ben weer prachtig gekleed door Shanna Suriname en Food Candy heeft me ook hele mooie schoentjes gegeven die ik mocht aandoen. En we danken natuurlijk ook weer overige sponsoren HSDS en vandaag is Minute Maid er ook bij als partner van het programma. Dus ik hoop dat we weer genieten van deze nieuwe aflevering van She Rises. Sheetal Sujan is moeder van 2 prachtige kinderen en heel erg druk en bezig, want ze heeft 2 bedrijven, Libra Training, Coaching en Consulting en Libra Learning. Ze is geboren in India, is daar opgegroeid. Ze heeft ook gewoond in de Filipijnen, in Suriname, in Trinidad en in de United States. Maar in Suriname voelt zij zich dus echt thuis. Ze is ook prachtig gekleed door Shanna Suriname en haar schoentjes zijn van Food Candy. Sheetal, welcome in our studio today. We're very happy to have you. And I know you're a very busy woman because you have companies to run, you have 2 young children. Your youngest child is 2
and a
right?
half. Yeah, she's 2.5.
So tell me, how does a normal day in your life looks like? What do you usually do every day?
So typically I wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. and that's when I get an hour to myself. That's the time I would maybe meditate or work out. With 2 children, you have to stay fit. So once between 7 and 8, I do my cooking for the rest of the day.
Okay.
So like
You
breakfast
cook every day?
Every day, breakfast
wow.
and lunch.
Okay.
And during that time, my kids usually start to wake up. My husband's already in the office by like 7ish, and then the nanny comes in at 8. She gets them, dressed up and things like that. I start to get dressed to work. And between 8 and 9, I'm usually in my office till about 3 o'clock.
You're an early bird. 5 o'clock, you wake up every day. Wow.
To be able to do everything I need to do, I have to wake up so much earlier.
Wow.
And then I'm in the office till 3, and that's when I have my time with my kids again. The nanny leaves, I sit with them till about 5ish, and then they go to one of their grandmothers, either my mother-in-law or my mom. And then I get 2 hours again where I either, do something that I need to do for work or something else. My kids are back usually by 7ish. We sit with them, hang out with them, and then, shower them, do their nightly rituals and stuff like that, have dinner together. And then, you know, my husband puts my son to bed, I put my daughter to bed,
Okay.
and we're usually in bed before 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you also sleep before 10.
Yes,
Okay.
I go to bed very early.
That's how you can get up 5 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
I need those 6 hours, at least those 6 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
And you are Indian, right? Because I
Yes.
know you from the Indian community.
Yes.
My husband is also Indian. You're from the same Indian background.
Right.
And I know you're born and raised in India. So it is very different now here in Suriname. But I am anxious to know, how was it for you as growing up as an Indian lady? Did you have an arranged marriage? Were your parents preparing an arranged marriage for you? Because I know that's a little traditional, and nowadays sometimes people still do or not. How was this for you?
So growing up, especially in my culture and in the community, you're pretty much taught from a very young age that, you know, as you get of age, and when I say age, parents typically start getting worried about your marriage when you're 18 years old.
Really, 18
Really,
already?
it's like, okay, she's an adult now, let's start looking for a husband. So I knew that very early on. I mean, my parents had an arranged marriage. A lot of my uncles and, you know, my relatives, they all had arranged marriages. That was pretty common way back then, even 20 years ago. That it was expected that when you get of age, you know, families start to look into other families, and you start to talk and find out who has a son, who has a daughter. Arrangements start being made, because when it comes to arranged marriages, it's the families that first have this agreement before, you know, the son or the daughter, you know, check each other out. You barely really get to know each other, and you know, if they say yes, she looks good, or he's good, and then, you know, things move along really quickly. I was always very afraid of that, because I could not fathom meeting someone just for a few minutes or just once or twice and then make a decision for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that was really hard for me to digest, that that was something that I may have to deal with growing up.
Okay, but did you talk about it with your parents?
I did.
How was their opinion? Could they understand you?
Oh no, yeah. The great thing about my parents, while they were like, you know, meet some families or meet some guys and see how it goes, I knew, I was very grateful for the fact that they never forced.
Okay,
that
that's
they were
nice.
never going to be like, okay, no, you have to marry within this family or to this person. So I was grateful that I would never be forced into marrying someone I did not like. And what happened over the years was, well, I loved learning. So I was a really good student at school. I was like, I got straight A's. I was a valedictorian of my high school. For me, it was about getting an education. I wanted to get my education first, and then think about marriage and things like that. Now, I was living in Suriname at the time. Now, I was born in India, but I've lived the majority of my life in Suriname.
Okay.
And I used to go to an English high school here.
Okay. And what's
After
the name
high
of the
school. What was
Which
that?
school was that?
That was the Christian Liberty Academy.
They still have that,
They
right?
still have that
Think
here.
aan de Gemeeneland
The-
sila? No?
Kasaba Hulawe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And back then, there were not a lot of options to do like your bachelor's in English in Suriname. So which means I would have to go away to get my studies done.
Yes.
And that's where the issues were with my parents, because they were very traditional, very strict. They're like, no, we don't want to send you away. And they were always worried and very protective. And that's understandable from their part. But it made me super frustrated not being able to complete my studies because I didn't have the options in Suriname, and I couldn't go abroad. At the same time, they were more concerned about getting me married. So I was going from one event to another event. And when I say event, I'm talking about outside of Suriname. Events within the community, weddings within the family. Maybe she meets someone, maybe she'll find someone there, maybe there are other families. That was going on for some while. While that was going on, I was working full-time with my dad. I was working in retail. So I couldn't study because I didn't have the options. They wanted to get me married, and the only thing I could do every day was go to my dad's store, which I did for almost 9 years.
Okay.
And I was with him at the same time being super frustrated, not being able to complete my education.
Okay, but you were not looking in Suriname for other options? Because
I
all the
did.
studies were in Dutch.
Mostly
That
were in
was like
Dutch,
a barrier.
and I was, exactly. For me, that was a barrier because I didn't speak a lot of Dutch back then.
But you did understand it, right?
I
A little?
understood the
Yeah.
little bit of Dutch that I knew. I learned at the store when I had to speak to clients and things like that. But still, it was really knowing different level of Dutch and going through that process to go through the program. And yeah, I felt like there were, like now we have online learning. We didn't have that back then. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the late 90s and the early 2000s.
But you didn't along that time because what was your age then? Like 18 or
So
what?
yeah, so when I graduated from high school, I was about 17 years old. I did have the opportunity to go to Trinidad for a year. My dad was like, okay, this is the closest we can send you. I had family there, so he said, go check it out, see if there's something that you see. Now, they had universities that were fully in English,
Okay.
and I was excited with the idea of going there. And I said, yes, let's go. So I went, I checked it out. I did a lot of courses in like computers because then the internet was booming.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to learn how to send an email and stuff,
Yeah.
learn Word and PowerPoint and stuff like that, aside from all the DOS and Word Perfect and things like that we learned back in those days. And I remember when I went through those courses, I was immediately offered a job because I was helping everyone in my class. I was the youngest in my class.
Aw,
And this was
you were the sweet girl in class.
this was like a service provider that was doing courses for corporate clients. So they had like people in the management level and the CEO
that's
level
nice.
who were learning how to use like,
Okay.
the internet and stuff like that. So I started assisting the trainer. I said, well, I don't have anything else going on. I'm just here to explore.
Okay.
And I started working there and I got my first job as a trainer, assistant
Oh,
trainer.
really? Nice.
When I was 17 years old.
Okay.
It was very, very interesting. I absolutely loved it. They even offered me a full-time position and even like a scholarship and all that. But unfortunately, during that year, the first 6 months that I was in Trinidad, we had an incident in our family. My dad's business had burned down.
Oh, okay.
But so there was a lot of stuff going on with the family, and I said, no, I have to be there to support my parents. It was very hard to be away.
Okay.
So I left Trinidad and I came back to Suriname. And
But
that
I guess that's where you already knew that I think training was also part of your passion because you loved it, right?
I actually didn't. It was just by accident I had gotten that job. But that was just one of the first signs from the universe that this was just coming in my path. But I had no idea that this was something for me. Just one of the things that came. It was fun. I assisted in the training, and that was that. I had to move back.
But then you came back to Suriname
I came
and
back
helped
to
your
Suriname.
dad.
Yes, so I started working with him at the store till they started rebuilding things again.
Which store was that exactly?
This is Natraj
Okay.
at the Keiserstraat. There was a big fire in Keiserstraat many years ago. I'm talking about 1996, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And
Oh shoot.
it
And
was
that's-
one of
His shops was
yes,
also one
his
of the.
his was one. It was literally a row of shops.
My gosh.
And
yeah.
it was a very tragic time for my family. It
Of
was
course, yeah, because he was working. It was his company,
yeah,
right?
him
then
and my uncle, they were
it
working
was burnt till the ground.
yeah,
Like
everything was
into
down.
ashes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So it was a very tragic time for our family. We had a smaller store as well, and then I started working there. And in the meantime, still looking for my options, still trying to figure out what to do while being sent to one wedding to another because
But
my
you
parents
were
were
not
so
falling
worried.
in love with someone because okay, you're going to a wedding. Your parents want you to meet a guy who you will marry
Right,
eventually, but you were not really.
I came across guys
meeting
that
guys
seemed
that were, like,
interesting,
into
but
your
it's not.
interest.
It's very difficult to fall in love in one day, and to be like, oh yeah, this is the person I want to marry. It just
Yes.
made it very difficult. And even if seemed like there was someone interesting, there was like no match. It was always one side that was not as interested, so there was never a match. And I would say that for me, that was a fortunate thing because the way my life played out after that got pretty interesting.
But did it frustrate you that your parents were going with you to these events and you were not every time? No, I don't really like him or this or that. Was it
It was
frustrating for you?
very frustrating. Like the single life is not easy. And to go through this and then, meet people and then you're, meeting families and then, there's disappointments if one side does not agree and, all of that, it was super, super frustrating because I'm still thinking of, oh my goodness, I just want to finish my education first,
yeah.
So I felt stuck and frustrated in every area. Even more so, I felt guilty that I was worrying my parents so
Yeah.
much, I mean, they were amazing. They
But
were
how did
always
you
great.
deal with that frustration and feelings of disappointment towards your parents? How did you deal with it? Did you just keep it inside or talk a lot about it?
Well,
or-
I had someone who I was able to pour my feelings out to, and that was my aunt.
Okay.
My mom's younger sister, who
Yeah.
was always there for me, who always supported me, who was really like so full of life and so amazing that when she was around, everything felt okay.
Okay, that's
But
nice.
she passed away.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
She's not alive anymore.
No, she passed away sometime in, I believe it's 2005.
Oh, that's
It's
not
been
so long.
16 years.
Okay.
And she was one of my greatest support back then.
Really?
So it felt like a wall hitting me every single moment.
Shoot.
And she was my greatest support through those periods. And I mean, my voice is cracking up just talking about it, but it's like losing her was like one of the hardest things I had to deal with.
Really?
Because she was like my best friend. She was my mom's best friend. And we would talk about everything and anything. It was amazing having her in my life. And
But
then-
I guess she was always also a little bit on your side
absolutely.
and understanding towards your
My studies and what I
frustration and
wanted
so
to
at the
do,
time,
and
yeah.
she was my greatest support. And one day, she was gone.
She got sick? Or?
Yeah, well, something had happened, and then
Okay.
she was no more. So those were some really hard times with things not working on the marriage and things not working with my studies. And the biggest blow was when she passed away.
Yeah, sure. So, how did you meet Christian? Because he is a Surinamese
Yes.
guy, right?
So there's a story in between before we get into that. Before I sometime in 2003,
Yeah.
a friend of mine came to me and said, listen, online schools have become really popular. Maybe you should look into it. Now, there were also a lot of con artists out there. There were many schools who were conning students. They were not accredited. They were like selling courses. I got conned once as well. And then I
Really?
realized, oh my goodness, what's happening here? I spent so much money and nothing came of it. And then
That's
eventually I found a university called the University of Phoenix, which was really popular with online courses and distance learning.
Okay.
And the internet, which was huge back then, so you did everything online. So I looked into it, and then I thought to myself that, wait, I'm 24 now, almost 25,
Okay.
and this is a 4-year bachelor's program. By the time I finish this, I'd be 29. My parents would go crazy if they knew I'm gonna spend the next 4 years studying if they're trying to get me married.
Oh my gosh, okay.
But I don't know what got into me. I told my aunt about it. I said, I really need to do this. And she's like, then just do it. And it was a very expensive study. So I literally used all my savings to pay for the first year. That's just about enough money I had for the first year.
Okay.
I said, when the time comes, I'll talk to them. Let me see how it goes
But you were doing this online without them knowing?
without them knowing. I was working at the store,
Okay.
and then I was doing it online. So I spend the weekends in my
Wasn't it
room a lot.
hard, and they were like,
Yeah,
they
my
didn't
dad-
notice.
my
that
dad
you were
didn't
doing a
notice.
whole study online.
My dad didn't notice.
Okay.
My aunt was there to cover me the entire time because she's like, oh yeah, she's doing
that's
something
so
or she's
sweet of
reading
her.
something. So she
Okay.
was always very supportive. And I
And what's the name of the
thrived.
study? What kind of study?
So
was
I
it?
studied business administration. So you have the associates, which is just 2 years. And then when you get your associate's degree, you do 2 more years and then you get your bachelor's.
Wow, but you were very determined to do that.
I
and
needed to happen.
Beside helping in your dad's store.
So I was
and-
working full time with him Monday to Saturday. And then on the weekends, I was literally buried
Wow.
in my books,
Wow.
going through those courses. But I was thriving. I finally felt alive again because I
Really?
really enjoyed learning. I always loved to learn.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to do this for me. So it came close to me running out of money. And eventually I told my dad, I'm like, listen, I've been doing this for the last year.
But it was successful. Did you get your, in Dutch they say propedeuse, the first year?
Yeah, so
And you do everything
the
successful?
Americans do it the 2 years. So propedeuse is usually the Dutch way. With the Americans, it's the associates, which is after 2 years. You
Okay.
get like a diploma.
Okay.
So
But you were doing well in the classes.
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
the-
yeah. I had a perfect score. Like I was like so into it. I would just loved learning.
Okay.
Eventually, I told them, I said, listen, I've been doing this for the past year. It's going really well. I've spent this much. I just need money for the next year, so I get the...
But they didn't get upset that you were doing this on.
Luckily
without
not.
them knowing.
Also because I was not going to go anywhere. They didn't have to send me abroad.
Ah.
I was doing it in Suriname. So my dad was pretty chill about it. He's like, okay, fine. So he helped me not only pay for the first year, he gave me money for the money I had already spent in my studies.
Oh, that's really good.
So I was like, okay, this is fine. Then an idea came to mind. I'm like, I wonder what it's going to be like if I signed up for a traditional school. You know, I always wanted to study abroad. But I figured, let me just see if I get in, just for fun. And I did it for fun. And I signed up to one school only. Usually they say you have to sign up to a couple of schools to see if you get in.
They don't really...
But because I was doing it for fun, I just said one school. I would do it in Miami because if I, by some miracle, I get to go to Miami, my dad would agree because I have family living there as well.
Oh, okay.
It always had to be if family was around, you get to go. But they were still not in a place where they were kind of agreeing. So I signed up, and usually you hear between 3 to 6 months. I heard under 3 months. They're like, you're in. I was like, okay, I got in.
Right away, you got in.
I didn't expect that. And it was the Florida International University. I was like...
And it was also for business administration?
Yeah. So it was just a continuation of what I was doing
Already
online.
doing. Okay.
I could transfer my credits and continue on the 3rd and 4th year to get my bachelor's there.
Okay.
I told my aunt about it. I said, you've got to help me talk to him because I don't think he's going to agree.
Yeah.
And 2
She
months
was
after...
really your guardian angel.
She was really our angel. But 2 months after that was when she passed away.
Oh, shoot.
And I was about 3 months away from finishing my 2nd year. I was literally on the verge of quitting. I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't deal with this frustration and heartbreak after heartbreak. I was just, that's it. I've had enough. But I had some amazing friends who knew I was going through this. They knew her very well as well. She said, you can't quit. Not right now. She's not going to let you. So I gathered all the strength that I could. And I finished.
Wow.
And at that point, I was in a very different place in my life because I had lost her. Everyone was like, you know, when you lose someone, you're just not yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And I, in passing, told my dad, by the way, last year, I applied to FIU and I got in. Just FYI. It was not me asking permission to go. I just said, I applied and I got in.
Wow.
And he says, when did you apply? I said, 6 months ago. He's like, okay. And that was that. And then another family wedding was coming up. So of course I knew, family wedding, they're going to send me again. They're going to be in this, oh, maybe she meets someone or let's see what happened. I went, but in my heart I knew, I'm not going to meet someone here. I went to the wedding. On the way back...
Where was the wedding?
In India.
Oh, so you went
all the way to India.
Okay.
And I had a stopover in Miami on the way back.
Okay.
So what I decided to do was I decided to check out the school. They do these campus tours for when you get in. So they said, listen, I thought, let me email them and say, hey, I'm in town. Can I come and check out the campus? So I went through the whole tour. I went through the entire process.
But
I saw
when you got
school.
accepted, you didn't really sign in right away? Or
no, once you're in, you're in. You just
Oh.
let them know if you're starting.
Okay.
And then you go through some paperwork and things like that. And when I was at campus tour, I was going through all that paperwork, acting as if I was going to go.
Yeah.
And and I told myself, if this is the only day I get to spend time at this school, then let it be only this day and I will make the most of it and I will enjoy it and will act as if I am coming. And that's what I did. And there came a part where we went to housing, where they would show you the dorms and stuff like that. And I remember the lady saying, if you put in $100 deposit today, we can guarantee you a room for when school starts. This was like May and school starts in August. And I just pulled out the $100 and I said, here you go, take my money.
But you were knowing like things are not fixed yet and you didn't even have your father's permission
Nothing, absolutely
for this.
nothing.
Okay.
I don't know what got into me. I said, here, take my money.
It's just a leap of faith.
And let me know when there's a room. And that was that. And I was happy going through that day. And I said, wow, this would have been the school I would go to. And I'm glad I got to see it. Never feeling sorry for myself that I wasn't going to go, but just feeling content that I got a chance to check it out.
Okay.
So I got back home and I was ready to continue on with University of Phoenix. They even offered me a scholarship to continue the next 2 years. So it's like, okay, it's set. I'll just
But
continue.
you were just going to continue online.
Continue online.
Ah.
Nothing was happening in the marriage scene, so I was like, okay, I'll continue my studies. And then one fine day, my dad's like, in the office, so are you packing your bags? I'm like, to where?
Oh, wow.
He's like, did you go check out the school while you were in Miami? I'm like, yes. He's like, so when are you going?
So don't you think he knew that you went to the school? Did you
Yeah,
ask
he
him?
knew. I told him.
Ah, okay.
And I'm like, I can go. He's like, yeah. I never asked him again. I don't know what got into him. He was like, go.
Okay, wow.
And
your
I
mom
packed
was
my bags.
also on board with it?
Yeah, my mom has always known everything. She's also been one of my greatest support, but my aunt used to always be the one who was more courageous to ask permission.
Yeah.
And
She was your spokesperson.
and I felt her courage when I
that's
asked,
nice.
when I told him.
Okay.
And I said, okay, let's do this. By then I was already like 26 years old.
Okay.
And I said, okay, it's just 2 years. We see what happens. I packed my bags and I went.
Wow.
And I spent the next 5 years in Miami.
But the study was just 2, right?
Yes.
So how did you continue to
So 2 years in,
stay?
I got my bachelor's. I was already 29 when I got my bachelor's. And still, even while I was there, I was now at a phase where I was thinking, I do need to settle down. I do need to meet someone, and
But
this
wasn't
needs
this
to
a
happen.
whole new world for you?
It was
like
absolutely,
going to,
yeah. It was
going
like
off to the university you always wanted to go. How was this like?
the experience was amazing.
Yeah.
I
But you were not
literally-
afraid going alone? And
Yeah, the fear
leaving
was
your
always
parents
there,
behind?
but the what I felt happy about, and this is why I understand why my father was always nervous sending me away. I had family there. They were literally 5 minutes away from my apartment.
Okay, yeah.
So if
that's a
anything
big
happened or
support,
something, they were
yeah.
always there. I was often over at their place, you know, so I knew I had people around
Yeah,
me. I
it's
had
a
friends
support
around
group,
me.
yeah.
My best friend lives in Florida, so I had people there. And this is why I had chosen that city in the first place,
Yeah.
because if the opportunity arises, I knew I had people.
Okay.
So I spent those 2 years, 2.5 years almost, going through my bachelor's. I completed it, and my graduation was like one of the happiest days, because I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I'm here and this is finally coming to
And
fruition.
everybody's okay with it.
Yeah,
and-
everyone was
yeah.
happy, you know,
Yeah.
everything was going great. I did really well at school. I had a really good GPA, so it was going really well. But now I'm hitting my 30s, right? So the worry of my parents keeps rising as the year goes by.
Yeah,
And they're
you
like,
still haven't
okay,
found
have you
Mr.
not
Right
met
yet."
someone? No, just meet anyone, like anybody at all. You know, my mom came to a point where it's like, he doesn't even have to be Indian, just meet someone you like.
But why you think it's so important for the Indian community for a woman to get married and have a man in her life?
You know,
Because you do have a lot of women who remain
Right.
single and are perfectly happy as well. But why do you think it's so important for the Indian community to find a man for a woman?
you know, it goes back to tradition. And back in the day, women were just raised in this manner that, you know, when you grow up and you're ready to get married, you know, your husband will take care of you after that. So it's that tradition that's been going on for year after year after year. Of course, things have changed very much today. Women are working now. Women are much more independent. I wanted to be independent.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, my mom's been a housewife all her life. And even though I wasn't going to school, I was working with my dad.
Yeah.
I still felt a sense of independence,
Yeah.
even though I was working with him, you know, and it was a lot of years, but still, I liked the idea of having a job and, you know, having that kind of independence in my life, having a career, you know, getting an education. That was just how I was raised.
Yeah.
And in that whole process, I remember when I was celebrating my 30th birthday, I was still in Miami. I was offered a full-time job, so I decided, hey, let me work. In the meantime, my parents knew. They're like, listen, if you're happy there, go ahead and stay there. Because they knew that I had better chances meeting someone in Miami
Than in
than I did in
Suriname.
Suriname. So they said,
Okay.
listen, just stay. If you're happy there,
Okay.
everything's going well, you have a job, you know, just stay on. So I stayed on. And I remember when on my 30th birthday, I was pretty happy. I was never like feeling sorry for myself. I'm 30, I'm still single, I didn't find anyone. I was never like that. But I remember getting an email from someone saying, hey, listen, you've hit 30. I mean, it's all well and fine, but you're going to get the leftovers now. And don't think that you're going to find what you want at this age, because it's not going to happen. The good ones are taken.
Really?
And I was like, whoa, what is this?
That's
And then-
pretty confronting.
Yeah, it was really confronting. And then I sent
How
him-
did you feel when you read that?
I felt like this person thought I was hopeless because I had turned 30, and that I wasn't going to find someone of my choice. And she was literally telling me, don't be so picky and just pick anyone at this point and just settle down. And I'm like, but I'm happy with myself.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that the person I marry will keep me happy. I, have that in my head. But if I were to marry, if I were to settle, it's going to be of my choice.
Yeah.
So a really good friend told me once, whatever you want, write down in detail what you want from whatever it is, whether it's a career, a job, a house, a person, a potential other. So what I did was I took a bunch of paper and I just literally wrote down, described who I wanted to marry. What was he going to be like? What was his personality going to be like? What's he going to look like? How is he going to be with me?
You made a profile of
Like
your
everything.
future husband.
I literally made a profile on paper.
Okay.
I looked at it for 7 days and I put it away. And I said, because if there's anything I learned in life is that if you want to go after something, you have to know first what you want. When you know what you want, you start to see it. You'll start to notice it. It'll start to show up in your life. And I really strongly believe that. My beliefs about life, about spirituality had evolved tremendously.
Okay.
And I noticed that when I was more clear about what I wanted, it was more likely to show up in my life. So I said, let's see if it works with a husband.
Okay.
And every time people would have conversations about, oh, there are no good guys out there. You can't find them anymore.
Yeah, because that's what you hear a lot. Or they have baggage,
or they
a
have
history,
or that,
you have
or
to
they're
agree on.
taken, or
Yeah.
or maybe you need to find someone who's divorced or has children. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I would be like, no, you're lying, because I don't believe that's going to happen to me. Every time someone would tell me something, I would turn the story around in my head. I said, no, that's not true. I know he's out there, and I don't have to find him. He'll come looking for me. He will find me. And I used to really believe that. With everything that happened with my studies, the fact that that happened,
Yeah.
I said, if this happened, anything can happen. And that's exactly what happened. That year, in my 30th year, a few months after, I got a message on Facebook. And it was a childhood friend of my brother.
Okay.
He's like, hey, Sheetal, remember me? Of course, I knew him because he used to be over at my house all the time. My brother and him would be playing video games, basketball and stuff. I knew him. And then we started talking, and I was like, hey, how have you been? Where have you been? He was away. He was in Holland studying. I said, I'm in Miami. The moment he knew I was still single, the man did not waste time.
Really?
Because apparently, I found out then he used to like me when we were kids.
Oh,
Apparently,
you
I
were
was
his
I was his
childhood
childhood crush. I was like, okay, this is
That's
interesting.
so sweet. Okay.
And the more I got to know him, the more he sounded like the guy on paper,
Yeah, you
the one
wanted
that I
to
had written down.
meet.
And it was really freaky that this was happening. Now, that year, I had also signed up to do my master's.
Okay.
He was in a place in his life where he was ready to settle. He said, listen, he was almost 30 as well. He's like, I'm almost 30. I want to settle down. I want to get married. I really like you. I've always
He
liked
was
you.
straight to the point like that? Oh my
It took
gosh.
some time.
Oh,
It
okay.
took some time. We were talking for a couple of months before he got to that part.
Okay.
And he was like, kind of made up his mind. You're it. I wasn't there yet. I was
But
still.
you didn't meet in person at
No,
that time.
it was
you
long
were just
distance.
communicating
Yeah,
online.
it was long distance.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was convinced. He's like, I don't even need to meet you. I just know this is it. He was so convinced.
That's really.
And I told him, I said, listen, I signed up to do my master's. It starts next year. I could decide not to do it. I never had my intentions to come to Miami to do my master's, just my bachelor's, and I have it.
You have a good education.
We can meet, see where it goes, get married, settle down, and that's that.
Yeah.
I was also ready to settle down. And then he's like, wait a minute, you're going to do your master's next year? I said, yeah. He's like, you know what, Sheetal? If you don't do your master's, I won't marry you. And he said it like that. I'm like, what? He's like, I'm not going to take that away from you. And that's when I knew this man was always going to support my goals.
That's nice, yeah.
And
That's really
that
nice.
was when I had made up my mind
Oh, wow.
that this was it. He is the one. Because if he was supporting my goals then, he would always support my goals as we went, we got into our relationship or got married or things like that. And during my master's, we got to know each other a lot better. We eventually told the family. And as soon as I was done with my master's, we both came back here.
Because how long was your master's at
A
that
year.
time?
It was an express master's program and I was working
But it
full
was pretty
time as
doable,
well.
right? Just finishing that and then...
It was the most stressful year of my life.
Really?
Because I was working full time, Monday
you
to
had
Friday,
combine it with work.
and I had to combine it with work. So I was working literally from 8 to 6. It was a very stressful job. I had gotten like another promotion. I was doing something else on the job. And my masters were on Saturdays, 8 to 5. And there was no break. Every Saturday for that year, I had to go to class. That's how this worked.
Okay.
And exams every like 6 weeks. So it was very hectic combining that and having a new relationship. So it was a lot of things going on at once. But we made it work. And in the job that I had, which was a career services office, that's when the second time I had the opportunity to start doing coaching and training. And that's when it came in my life again. I was supposed to be in a position called student employment manager, where I did reports and surveys and stuff like that. But part of the job had to coach students, do workshops, resume writing, internships, and stuff like that. And that's when it fell in my lap again. I wasn't a trained coach. It just was something that I had to do for the job. And I loved it so much. I enjoyed the fulfillment I got from it. Those 5 years that I spent in Miami really helped me get to know the real me, who I was, what my talents were, what my skills were. I was also in a finance job that I did really well, but I absolutely hated. So I knew what I didn't want to do. I studied finance as well, and I was like, why am I doing this? You know? So it was really a chance to explore myself, to get to know myself, which also helped me make a decision towards my partner. Because now I knew what I wanted. Now I knew what would make me happy.
So it was also a way to shape yourself and get ready for the next phase in
the next phase. And that shaped up. So when Christian and I were talking about, well, where should we go? He was in Belgium at the time. He was living in Brussels. And he was at the peak of his career. He had a really good position. I was living in Miami. I had a good position as well. And when we decided, well, who's going to move where? Where are we going to go? Very, simultaneously, we said Suriname.
Wow.
Because it was home for him, it was home for me. And he says, you want to go back home? I was like, yeah, let's go back home. Let's leave everything. We both left really good jobs, literally burned our bridges because there was no going back. Once we left those jobs, there was no going back. We had to come back here and do something and make something of our lives. For the last 10 years, we've been doing
Wow, that's
Libra.
really nice. That was the start of Libra.
That was the start of Libra.
Okay, after the break, we're going to go a little further on what you're doing at the moment now with Libra. But we're going to take a short break and then we'll return.
Okay.
HSDS, de TV-specialist in Su. Het grootste aanbod van televisies vindt u alleen bij HSDS. 3D, Full HD, 4K, Ultra HD, SUHD, OLED en QLED televisies. Wilt u meer? Oké, flat. Curve, groot, klein, digitaal en smart. HSDS is uw tv-specialist. Op zoek naar uw favoriete merk? Geen probleem. Samsung, Sony, LG, Philips, Toshiba, Panasonic, TCL, Haier, Sharp, iQ en nog veel meer. We bieden de nieuwste modellen voor altijd lage prijzen. We hebben alles voor uw tv. Voltageprotectors, digitale boxes en overige accessoires. HSDS, uw tv-specialist in Su.
Terug in de studio met Sheetal. I'm gonna put something to drink for you because we have a new partner for the program, and that is Minute Maid. And you know, when they first started this packaging, like the 1 liter, they always had the small bottles, right? But when they first started with the 1 liter packaging, I did the campaign, the marketing campaign with Gia, with my daughter.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun, and I'm happy they are cooperating now and want to support this program.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just like a fruity drink. It's really nice. Gia loves it. In the morning with breakfast, she needs something, and then yeah, it gives her a boost for the day.
Yeah.
But I wanted to continue the interview with the part that I first saw you for the very first time on stage during a human resources event.
Right.
It was in Torarica, right? And I
Right.
knew you from the Indian community, from my husband, and so, but I never knew you were a speaker and presenting, and you were very open about the fact that you are an introvert.
Right.
And yeah, maybe you can explain a little, very short, what an introvert exactly is and how this was for you, because you had shared a lot of personal experiences about being an introvert.
Yes.
And it was always, or sometimes also, a challenge, right?
Yes, absolutely. So an introvert is someone who's typically very shy and very aloof and, you know, kind of to themselves. They usually think a lot in their head. They're not as outspoken as extroverts, and they would say things only when really needed, and they would pretty much have a lot of conversations in their head. They would often be the quiet ones in the room, and you know, very rarely you would hear them say something. So growing up, I was very much like that. I just didn't understand why. Why is it that I'm so quiet all the time? And I couldn't let my voice be heard.
But were you afraid to speak or to
I
speak your
think-
mind?
Yes, it was mostly fear. Fear to speak my mind, fear on what are they going to say, or what are they going to think, or how are they going to judge me if I said something. And I never understood how my friends just said whatever that was on their mind so easily. And I was like, how are they doing this? And they made friends very easily, and they went to people and spoke to just about anyone. Like my mom's very extroverted. She could speak to just about anyone. And I'm like, how does she do this? And I could never do that. It was when I went to Miami and when I was in my job, I learned the difference between introversion and extroversion.
Yeah.
I learned this through an assessment called the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And that's when it clicked. Okay, so this is normal behavior. There was nothing wrong with me all this while, and that there are people who are like this, and I was just one of them. And when I explored being an introvert, it made it easier to extrovert, because we have both in us. It's just that one side of our personality dominates more than the other. For me, the introversion was dominating.
Because being an introvert is not a bad thing, right?
Not at all, not at all. Introverts have their gifts, and we prefer like written communication and things like that. We may not extrovert as much. We may not like public speaking. Like, for example, if I had to do public speaking 15 years ago and someone told me I'd be a speaker or a trainer or I'd be doing interviews, I'd be like, no way, this is not me. I can't do that. I used to be afraid of public speaking. But because of my experience in the States and having done workshops and coaching and stuff, that really developed my extroverted side. And now I'm able to manage my energy. So after this interview, I'm going to shut out from the world, because I'm like, we've done a lot of talking. Now I just need some quiet time with myself. And that's what I do after my trainings as well, right?
Okay.
I have a very extroverted job.
Yeah,
I'm
because
speaking,
it's
I'm
very-
training, I'm in front of people. I'm now on camera post-COVID. I started doing my courses on camera now and online. That after that, I have to manage my energy. But knowing this about introversion, extroversion really helped me understand that about myself, that I'm able to manage those sides of my personality, and I help others do the same. That's part of my job today
That's
as
really
well.
nice, yes, because that's what you do with Libra, right?
Yes.
Can you explain very short how you started Libra and what the company exactly does?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, after our engagement, we decided to register the company. Now, Christian, my husband, has an IT background. So he does a lot of like process management, he builds applications and things like that. So he was already forming the consulting part of the business.
Okay.
My experience was in training and coaching because of my work in the States.
Okay.
And I decided to build the training part of the business. So we combined our efforts, and very quickly we knew that you can't just manage a company's processes or build the applications. You need to train people as well.
Of course.
And then you have to have the human skills, and then you have to have the technical
it's a nice
skills.
Combination.
So we combined that, and we created Libra, and we started building our business based off on what was needed in Suriname. Now, I had a different plan. I'm going to do the Myers-Briggs, like the personality assessment. I'm going to do this kind of coaching and that kind of coaching because that's what I just learned. But it didn't work initially because Suriname was not ready for that. We started getting requests for team buildings. We started getting requests for customer service trainings. I started doing more emotional intelligence-based trainings.
Yeah, that was the last one, right?
Exactly.
Nice
How
one.
to manage your, basically it's a personal development, it's a leadership program to become a better leader on the work floor. So all of that started developing as I got to know the Surinamese market.
Yeah.
And as he got to know, he was getting more projects on more the IT aspect. So I would do the trainings in English and he would do the trainings in Dutch. So I build the trainings, I talk to the client, find out what they need. Everything is tailor-made. We don't have a one-size-fits-all because every organization is in its own phase.
Customize to their
It's
needs.
completely customized to the client. And that's how we started building our business based off on what everyone needed. And we were literally at a team building every Saturday.
And what was the biggest challenge with that? Building your business and together with your husband, because sometimes people also can say if you work together you get bored from each other, you're in each other's space all the time. It's not good. How do you deal with that?
It was an interesting year, our first year, because it was our first year of marriage. We had just started our business. We had just bought our first house together. It was like a lot of firsts in the first year. And I was like, we must be crazy to be doing this because now we're also working together. And I mean, for me, everything was a new experience, not just the marriage, but the business. I was a new entrepreneur as well. I mean, I had worked in retail with my dad, but this was my baby. This was my business. So yeah, there were challenges. Getting to know, first of all, the culture shock. Both of us having lived abroad, coming to Suriname, getting to know the culture all over again. Understanding how things worked in Suriname. Nobody knew us. People knew our parents. They didn't know us.
Yeah.
And our one of the biggest decisions moving back to Suriname was also our family. Just besides coming back and contributing to Suriname based on what we had learned and what we knew, we wanted to see Suriname grow. We've been brought up here. I've lived, most of my teens here. So for me, it was like home. His parents here, my parents here. If we ever had kids, it would make our kids happy, the grandparents happy. So we had all this planned out. But with Libra, we had many challenges as entrepreneurs. The first 2 years was quiet. It meant going from event to event, presentation to presentation, letting people know our skills. Even more so, we were in our early 30s. So when we were meeting CEOs and we were meeting managers, we even had this comment once by someone who was like, hey, what are you going to teach us that we don't already know? Because we looked like little kids when we came here. 10 years ago, it was a very different picture.
Yeah, of course, because you were much younger as well.
But we kept pushing. We kept doing it. We were very grateful for the companies that did give us an opportunity, who worked with us. And very quickly, the word started to spread. In Suriname, the newspaper is word of mouth. One company is happy with you, they talk to their friends who work in other companies. And the first 5 years of our business came from word of mouth.
Really? You didn't do any advertising
not Facebook,
somewhere else?
Not online marketing. We did very few advertisements on TV, which most of the time didn't work. But most people got to know us because they heard about us.
That's nice. And that's the best way of marketing.
That was the best way. Until today, I heard you guys did this. And we always asked, is it our Facebook ads? Did we do a good job? No. We didn't see you online. We heard about you through. And that's how we started to build our business. While that was going on, I was also teaching at the FHR School of Business for 5 years. So I also became a full-time lecturer. So, everything kind of came back in my life.
And what
Education. international business. So I graduated with an international business degree in my bachelor's. And funny enough, I remember someone telling me, you're not going to find a job in Suriname because you speak English. Again, those, you know how people always tell you. So I'm like, in fact, I think English will be valued. And then it just so happened that in 2012, FHR decided to bring in a program fully in English in the bachelor's. They were already doing the master's, but they had the bachelor's. I went there, I handed in my resume. I was hired. I was one of the first lecturers in that program with the first students who started out international business. And I went on to teach that program for 5 years in many different business programs. And for me, that was a huge accomplishment in the sense that I once was not able to get my education.
And now
I was back here. People were studying in English and I was one of the lecturers.
Yeah, and you were supporting that. That's really
so
nice.
it felt great to be able to do that while I was building my business. And the nice thing was that while I was teaching at FHR, I also got to know the market, what were students interested in, what they were learning, and being able to bring what I was doing at Libra in the classroom to share with them what was happening in the market. So that combination worked out really, really well.
It's a nice combination. And talking about your work and starting Libra and the company growing, how did you think of motherhood and the fact of growing a family at a certain point? Because you were already like, you had a certain amount of years that you were not finding the right person, and then you finally got to do your study. But now, you're a mom of two beautiful, beautiful children. How did that start?
So we, in the earlier years of our marriage, we were already talking children. I said, yes, definitely we're going to have children. We had already hit our 30s, and you don't want to wait too long to have those children.
And especially in the Indian community,
oh my goodness,
are constantly
so once you get married,
you should be
where are the
pregnant
children? Where are the
right
children? Are you having children? And that was also a very frustrating period because that was not happening as well. It was taking some time for us, but eventually when we let go of the idea and we thought, listen, we were now in our mid-30s, and it was like a very frustrating
biological
period.
Clock is ticking, right? So
it was super frustrating.
how were you dealing with that?
I was just, we were both working very hard because we were trying to build the business. We were literally working 7-day weeks. So I got extremely distracted with work. But every time we came home to an empty house thinking, are we ever going to have children, or is this going to happen? It was a very difficult period as well for us. But what kept the assurance going was my husband telling me, kids or not, I'm with you. I love you. I'm always going to be with you. We are happy together. We're lucky together. Things were going really well with the business, at least the way we wanted it to play out. He's like, if the kids don't happen, don't worry about it. We've got each other. And that gave me this sense of assurance. He was very supportive.
That's
very,
really
very
nice.
supportive.
Yes. Okay.
And I was literally on the verge of telling the grandparents, like, don't expect grandchildren because I don't know if it's going to happen. And then we decided, you know what? We'll travel, we'll enjoy our lives, we'll just travel all over the world, we'll, make a lot of money, we'll do really well in our business, we'll help people in Suriname, we'll help things grow.
Things to make it work, but then...
Yeah, there were interventions that didn't work out. And I thought, let's just let it be, because that in itself is such a frustrating journey.
Yeah.
Month by month, knowing that it wasn't going to happen. And I said, let's just let it go. So we went on a trip to Aruba, and we had this beautiful adventurous trip together. And we're like, okay, it's just going to be the two of us, and we're going to have fun. Every year, we're going to take a trip together to a new place, and it's just going to be us. And a month after that trip, I was pregnant with my first.
So you just needed to relax.
I just had to let it go.
Wow.
But in my heart, I always believed I would have children. I just didn't know when or how or what. And that's what always kept me strong with everything I wanted in my life. Even with my studies, I had to believe it was going to happen. I just didn't know when or how long it was going to take.
Patience is very powerful.
Very powerful thing. Even with my husband, I knew I was going to meet someone of my choice. I just didn't know when or how. Same thing with my children. So all those moments, it came much later than I would have wanted. But it still happened, and it happened way better than I expected it to
because
be.
now you're really enjoying your kids, right?
Absolutely.
I have you on Facebook, and sometimes you share these things your kids are saying or doing, and it always makes me laugh, and I'm reading it a few times and laughing about it.
I know.
It's
I have
really nice.
enjoyed my children so much from
So how
babies.
old are your kids now, and how is the combining motherhood with work? Because that is pretty tough.
So my son is almost 5. He's 4.5. He turns 5 in August. My daughter is 2.5, and she is the loudest one in the family.
What's her
She's
name?
the boss. So my son is Arjun. My daughter's name is Arya.
Okay.
Arya is a name of Durga,
Okay.
her
Wonderful.
warrior image.
Whoa.
And I always like the name Arya. A lot of people would say, is it from Game of Thrones? I said, no, it never started there. So, and these two are really the light of my life. Now, combining it, yes, that was a struggle on its own, because here I had this business that started to do really, really well. I had to stop teaching temporarily because with the teaching, with Libra and my children, I had to give up something. So I stopped teaching at FHR. I started focusing on my children. For the first 3.5, 4 years, at least until my daughter was born, just 6 months ago, I was working half days.
Okay.
Literally trying to be with them. Now, lucky for us, we have our office built in our home.
Okay.
And that was a decision we made consciously so that I could be near my children, at the same time also do work. And my husband's also around, so he sees the kids throughout the day as well.
Nice, yeah.
So we built our office by our home, and that way we don't miss out on our children growing up. And we so much longed for having children, and when they were finally there, we didn't want our work or business to be in the way. So we said, listen, we'll just put everything under one roof. We get to work, we get to be with them, we don't miss out on the moments. And so we've been working from home pre-COVID.
Yeah, because do you sometimes feel that because you're working and you have your own company with your husband running it, that sometimes as a mom you don't have enough energy or time for your kids? Do you feel like that certain
That
times?
has happened. There have
how
been
do you deal with
times,
that?
I mean, my son did not sleep through the night in his first year, so I barely got any sleep. My daughter did not sleep for 2 years. So I was waking up, I had low energy, I was frustrated very often, I was trying to work, I was trying to be there for them. The guilt was always there, the mom guilt's always there.
Yeah,
Like,
because I'm talking about the mom guilt, that you don't have enough energy for them because work is exhausting, and then you come home, 2 small children who really want your attention. How do you deal with that?
What really helped me was my knowledge in emotional intelligence. So that's something I teach as well. How do you manage your emotions when you're dealing with setbacks, when you're going through stuff, when you're feeling frustrated? And let me tell you, that really helped me as a mom, because every time I felt the frustration coming up, the energy, I was able to talk myself into feeling more energized, in really being present for my children, in taking care of myself, because part of emotional intelligence is taking care of yourself. Reminding myself that I needed to sleep more often. So when I needed to sleep, I would tell my husband, listen, watch the kids, I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to go to sleep. And he's very supportive when it comes to the children.
That's nice.
I mean, you got to divide and conquer. You can't do these things on your own. It takes a village to raise children. And I had the village.
Yeah.
I had my husband, I have my parents, I have my in-laws. Anytime I needed support, they were there. I have a nanny who takes care of the children. So I know, and I was not afraid to ask for help. You have to be able to ask for help and let people know, listen, I need to rest now, or I need to get this done. And while I was away, I would feel guilty. Oh my goodness, I should be there with them, which is why I didn't work full time. I just worked a few hours, got whatever I needed to get done, and then I would spend time with them.
Okay.
So, and one of my most popular programs, Productivity Matters, was developed because of them. Because I had to be able to do a lot in very less time. And now I'm teaching others to do the same.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And you see that others also struggle with the same
Absolutely,
things? Yeah.
absolutely. Managers, CEOs, I mean, not just mothers. I mean, this came from a mother who needed to work, who needed to get stuff done, who had very little time, who has 2 children. But you'd be surprised how many people are struggling with having to do so much and having very little time, that we ended up developing a program because we used what we are doing in our day-to-day, because myself and Christian, I mean, he's busy with projects too, but we're managing a home, our children, the business and stuff like that together. But because of the tools, those tools, you can say we survived. We did well, and then we're helping others do the same as well.
So Sheetal, so to come to an end to this interview, what is the specific message you would like to give to ladies looking at you and thinking you have it all, like a nice family, but they don't know the struggles you've been through, and maybe at a certain point, if they are also struggling with finding a life partner and getting a good education and having the limitations of every different situation, what kind of message would you like to give them?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't give up on yourself. You have to, one, know what you want, and you have to really believe in yourself. If you believe that you deserve something, you will find a way to get there. It took me years to get to the education, to the husband, to the children. But it was because my belief that this is meant for me, it's going to happen.
You deserve it.
And that I deserve it. That's the most important thing, that you deserve this. It will fall in your lap. You just have to keep going, pushing through, and not settle. Don't settle if something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't feel good. I didn't want to settle for an arranged marriage. I wanted to marry someone I wanted to marry, someone I felt love towards. So I said, unless that isn't going to happen, I'm not going to do it. So you have to believe in your dreams. Know very specifically what you want and why you want it. I had my reasons. I always wanted to get married and settle down.
Yes.
But it had to be how I wanted it, who I wanted to marry, and why I wanted it. The family life was always going to be part of my life. And even today, even having the businesses, even having the career and my children, my family comes first.
Yes.
The family always comes first. I will make time for the business, but for them, the time's always there. So I don't work full time. And you know what? I also want to give the message that maybe you don't get everything at once, but eventually it all falls into place.
Yeah, you have to stay positive.
Absolutely.
And your latest adventure is this Shopaholic.
Yes.
Maybe you want to give us a short, tell something short about that, because that was also one of your wishes, and you just started that like a few months ago, right?
Actually, a few weeks ago.
A few weeks.
Yes. So when we were building on Libra, I initially, this was a 7 years ago dream. I thought it would be nice to get back into retail, because I was in retail many years ago. But deal in women's bags and clothing and stuff, something that I enjoy. Like, I love to shop as well, and I love to shop at a bargain. I always look for great bargains. And I thought to myself, there must be other women who have similar interests.
And nowadays we can always use that.
Absolutely. So and I had saved this name on Facebook many years ago, but had never used it. I said, someday when I can, I'll do it. Eventually, Libra got busy. I had children. Nothing took place. And one day, Facebook reminded me, hey, are you still using this name? Are you still going to do it?
You made a page?
I made a page many years ago.
Oh, okay.
But just the name. I just saved the name.
Shopaholic,
Shopaholic.
Right? Is it Shopaholic Su or Shopaholic?
The Shopaholic Suriname.
Oh, the Shopaholic Suriname.
So, and then it came up and I thought, why not? Let's try it. Let me see. So I started it a few weeks ago, and then we see what happens.
Yeah, that looks really nice. And the collection you have at this moment,
you.
I also purchased some tops. It's really cool. Check it out.
Thank you so much.
Sheetal, I really want to thank you for being my guest today, and especially for opening up about your whole journey to studying and finding the right partner, life partner, and being a mom today. Thank you so much for opening up. And Libra is also online, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe you can share some social media information before we end.
Yes, so you can find Libra on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We're all over. We now have hybrid programs, which means we don't only do face-to-face, we also have online programs. In fact, I just released my first online program in January. It's called Reset, Recharge, Reinvent Your Life, because that's really what happened with me in those years. And my focus is managing personal leadership and life goals. Again, I was talking about life goals today. So I'm helping others do the same as well. So whether you are a leader, or you are a parent, or you are a mentor or a coach, start with your own self-development before you start leading others and coaching others. And that program starts in May.
Nice.
My next
Sounds
class. I
exciting.
have 10 people who graduated recently, and my next class starts in May.
Okay, that sounds really nice. A lot of success with that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're looking forward to more news about Libra, but thank you so much. And that was our guest for today, Sheetal Sujan. And yeah, stay tuned for another nice episode of She Rises. Struggles make you stronger.
This is another Supreme production.
Supreme TV.